9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Prevent security in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FPC Radio Live. It's Wednesday. It's February the 23rd. That's right. It's almost the end of February. It's crazy. It's a few more days. 28th next Monday, I believe, is the last day of February. Then it's March, which means we're almost to the next football season, John. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Football is almost here. It's just a mere 6 months away.
I know we count down the days, right? There are those of us that enjoy the NBA. The NHL, I know, is a big sport for you, and then Major League Baseball, we'll see what the heck happens with that. But I just can't wait to get out of February. It's my least favorite month of the year. I just hate it. Absolutely hate it. The weather is atrocious. My mom passed away in February 35 years ago, so it is a month I can't wait to get out of. I love getting into March.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing, too. This year's been a little bit off because, obviously, the season ended kind of a year later. It just... I mean, I'm happy for football. It's good. It's good to kind of refresh and kind of reset and kind of get into what's going to happen in the future. It's a little odd seeing things without Tom Brady's name on it, and it's going to take some time getting used to. But this is a great time for you, John, because this is the absolute in the Aaron Rodgers season cycle, year-long cycle, and we go through this every single year. This is when he is at his absolute best because there's no negativity around him. The Super Bowl is over. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, at this point, there's no pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He loves it. This is the best time for him. Everyone loves him. He's the most hypothetically great quarterback ever, blah, 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 blah. We're so far away from the playoffs that anxiety of what we see each and every year from him has not creeped in yet. But so we are. This is the honeymoon period every single year with Aaron Rodgers. That March, April, May, we're gonna run it back. Or this is the last dance, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. So I'm sure you're happy about that.
Well, yeah, because there's hope, right? There's hope that maybe 2022 will be the year that he returns to the Super Bowl for the first time in 12 years. So yeah, we have hope for that. Where he's going to do it, who knows? Maybe he's going to join the USFL. Maybe he'll join the XFL. Who knows? Maybe he'll go to Canada and play at this point. But it's over with. We've crowned a new Super Bowl champion, Matt Stafford and the LA Rams. So we start the cycle once again.
Yeah, speaking of start cycle, I mean and this is the beauty, and this is how I believe this all went down a few weeks ago. We know Aaron Rodgers is a guest on Pat McAfee show all year. They're friends, obviously. That's the only reason why they obviously keep doing all this every year. So there's probably these texts saying like, "Hey, man, I want to have you on a guest. How do we hype it up?" Well, let's send out a cryptic message the night before. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, okay, what is this going to accomplish? Well, you know what it accomplished? Everyone's eyes were on the Pat McAfee show yesterday at 105. You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers. And you know why? Because the night before he sent out, I mean, it's the most incredible free advertising you can ever get from someone who's sitting here trying to figure out how can I generate this much buzz around what we do to watch that. And that was for free. I mean, companies pay millions of dollars to get that type of advertising at the Super Bowl. Pat McAfee got it for free from Aaron Rodgers just because he decided to throw a tweet out, which literally said nothing. I mean, at the end of the day, he came out and he said, "I'm not making a decision today." Which,
right,
duh, obviously. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, when Aaron Rodgers announces, if and when he retires or whatever, I'm pretty sure he's not going to go on well, actually, I don't know. Maybe he will. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be surrounded by his family making a decision. So maybe it is going to be the Pat McAfee show.
He'd be solo if that was the case. He'd be up there by himself. It's kind of Trumpian, right? I mean, because this is how...
we talk about his ego. This is very ego-driven here.
Of course it is. Yeah, and look, I mean, I don't want to get into it about Tom Brady, but, Brady knows how to manipulate as well.
Oh, sure.
And
they all
and they all do. This is why I think the more I look at both Brady and Rodgers, I become a bigger fan of Peyton Manning. I mean, he just kind of handled his exit from Indianapolis with a lot of class, and he handled his retirement with a lot of class, and he's kind of gone on. And it's kind of weird because he was the chosen one, right? Peyton Manning, he was the highest recruited high school player. He was great at Tennessee. He was the number one pick. He was supposed to be this great quarterback. He came from NFL royalty, and he's handled it really well. Even in post-retirement, he's doing the Manning cast. He's still the great pitch man. Seems like to be the everyman, although he probably isn't, but he is able to pull it off. Whereas maybe Brady and Rodgers, because they're Northern California dudes, they, try to, Brady with the TB12 method, and now Rodgers with Punch Karma, which sounds like a 12-day colonoscopy to me. But
yeah, I was going to say, did you do some research into the details of?
I'm in day one. I'm in day one right now. I feel fantastic. Yeah. I'm surprised I'm talking to you because it's not. I'm supposed to be silent for 12 days.
Yeah,
but we've already taken some of the things that we need to do, and we're on our way to cleansing.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm looking at some of the first of all, trying to pronounce some of the procedures is difficult in and of itself, and then when you actually read what the procedures are, it seems like a pretty he's got to commit to it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm not knocking him for it. I mean, I believe in bettering your mind and body and all that stuff. So any sort of stuff like this, I'm not going to knock for the act of it. I'm just looking at, to your point, the amount of enemas involved in all of this is just might be a little bit too much. But he clearly seemed to again. I put part of this on the fact that, like I said, this is the peak in the Aaron Rodgers yearly cycle. So this is where he's at his best. So I make it a combination of that and the fact that he just came out of this 12-day cleanse as to why he looked so, I don't know, looked like he just got back from Woodstock or something. I don't know. He looked like he was in a very good mood. I'm not going to say he was on anything, but if it came out later, that maybe. Yeah, I was going to say if it came out later, that maybe he dabbled in a little something here and there. It wouldn't surprise me, but.
He was tripping.
Yes. I mean, that guy is definitely someone who has eaten shrooms in his life, or will certainly plan on doing that once he's out of the league for good. I mean, maybe that's what's going to force this. You know what? Maybe I'll just go to Joshua Tree and eat shrooms for the rest of my life. I got money. But anyways, obviously there's more to. What's going on in the sports world. We're anticipating the start of free agency in about 3 or 4 weeks. Kind of curious, not crazy out of the loop, but J.C. Jackson obviously mentioned that the Patriots' communication with him so far has been essentially non-existent, which, like I said, is a little surprising. But at the end of the day, I mean, I feel like they're going to end up placing the franchise tag on him. In which case it will, still allow them to negotiate, and it would just make, create an exclusive window essentially for the two to do so. And the period in which teams can place franchise and transition tags opened yesterday. So any day now you may see that from the Patriots, and it would make this lack of communication comment moot. But it is something to keep an eye on because, the Patriots clearly decided, between him and Stephon Gilmore this past year, and rightfully so. I mean, I think we all love Stephon Gilmore in New England. We all recognize that he was still a really good player, but as has been the philosophy since day one, it's all right, get rid of a player a year too early versus a year too late. And I think we've kind of seen that, and Stephon Gilmore is dealing with more injury issues towards his end of the season with the Panthers. So, there's some validity in the decision that they made. And J.C. Jackson is, he's a rich man's Trayvon Diggs. I know people, use the poor man's argument, but I think Trayvon Diggs is, because he's a cowboy and because he had some really early flashy plays. I mean, I equate him all the time to he's like the Chris Davis of the NFL. The guy's going to hit 40 home runs, but he's going to strike out 150 times and hit 205. So,
right.
And that's what we saw all season. Yeah, he would make some interceptions, but then he'd run right when a receiver ran left and get blown out of the water. And this happened more than once. So, J.C. Jackson's not that. I think the two of us have obviously seen him play quite a bit. I think more and more the national media is starting to see him play quite a bit. He's one hell of a corner. He may
Mhm.
be trending towards being one of the best in the league if he isn't already in that discussion already. I don't think he's the best, but you're not going to get too far down the list before you get to his name when you're talking about the best corners in the league, if you've been paying attention. So um, the Patriots are obviously going to have to make a decision. If they franchise tag him, I believe, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, I believe the number's around 14 million.
I
Maybe,
think it's a little higher, Ian. I
yeah.
think it's
Is it
17,
17?
maybe.
Okay,
I
maybe
think
it
it's
is.
17.
Yeah, maybe it is 17. Regardless, I mean that's obviously big money for a player. The player wants the security. The team wants to find the best deal. I do think eventually this is going to get done because well, actually, you know what? I don't know. Actually, I don't know because as great as J.C. Jackson is, you're not gonna. The reason why the Patriots have been the Patriots is because they don't overpay talent. And sometimes that's going to create some animosity towards the front office. It's going to create some animosity towards the coaching, all that stuff. The reality of it is, you got to make hard decisions sometimes to remain competitive, and I think the Patriots have proven that they're capable of doing that. I personally would want them to keep J.C. Jackson. However, as J.C. Jackson has called himself Mr. Interception, and rightfully so, very deservingly so. Um, he clearly wants money, and I get it. I understand. I will never bemoan a player for wanting to maximize his value, especially in the game of football, where the shelf life is so short for these players. But it still doesn't mean that I can't sit there and say, well, we're going to make a decision that's financially better for the organization. Because as great as JC Jackson is, it would be foolish to overpay him at the expense of the rest of your team. And as we've seen, I know that the focus for the Patriots over the last 20 years, oh, those second round defensive backs, they're a pretty damn good team at scouting secondary talent. Like I know there was a stretch of period, during those 2010s where it was kind of a tough period of time for Patriots secondary, obviously with Julian Edelman filling in at the Dwayne Starks era, if you will, Lee
Yep.
Bodden, both of which I was quite excited for at the time. But that's neither here nor there. They're really good at scouting talent in the secondary. Um, Malcolm Butler, J.C. Jackson. I mean, no one was talking about J.C. Jackson until all of a sudden he was an All-Pro talent. You're like, wait, where the hell did this guy come from? He wasn't a first-round pick. Um, so I think they have enough confidence in their ability to find talent in the secondary to, if it gets to that point where if JC Jackson is very adamant about getting the absolute top dollar he can get, you might see him walk.
Yeah, I think there's a real possibility that they tag him and trade him. I think that could make sense because at least you get some value back. Let's say you tag him and you trade him for a second round pick. That's decent value. I mean, obviously he's a player who's made the Pro Bowl. He's been productive for you. But if you're not going to commit to him, and the going rate for cornerback of that caliber would be about 4 years, $72 million, which is $18 million a year. I can't see them doing that. They didn't even do that for Stephon Gilmore. Now, that was 5 years ago in free agency, so the prices go up. But Gilmore was a better player than J.C. Jackson. I think we can all agree with that. Gilmore won
Oh,
Defensive
yeah,
Player of the
yeah.
Year. True lockdown corner. I mean, J.C. Jackson's an excellent player, but I think maybe you tag him, and if you could trade him for a second pick, and you hope Bill seems to do better with late draft picks and undrafted free agents. He coaches them up, and they play really well. Or if you decide to go into free agency like you did with, or trading for Darrelle Revis and Aqib Talib, or free agency with Stephon Gilmore, there's always talent out there. And it also goes back to the whole defensive scheme too. I think if your pass rush is improved, then the cornerbacks are going to be improved, right? Because they just have less time that they have to cover receivers. And the pass rush was good early in the year, not so good late in the year, but they were also playing from behind. So it's a whole, all of these things are tied together. But my guess, Ian, would be that they tag him and trade him. I think that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I'd say that the motivation wouldn't be first to trade him. Like, I think they're going to tag him with the intention of being able to sign him. Like, they want him there. I mean, this isn't okay, let's try to just get him at the very best deal. Like, I think they'll pay him a good contract if it's a reasonably good contract. You know what I mean? Like, I
Mhm.
don't think that they're gonna go into this thinking or assuming that they're not gonna sign him. Now, I think maybe they have a number in mind that they're not gonna go past. Maybe 18 is a little bit too high per season. We'll see. We'll see. You know, again, I think it obviously the system is set up to be at the advantage of the Patriots because they again all they have to do is decide to franchise tag him and he has to play at that number for that season if or he doesn't play at all. So there is advantages for the Patriots in this situation where maybe they just have him for one more season and then let him walk. Um, but look, if they lose him, yeah, they're going to take a little bit of a step back in the secondary. However, again, like I said before, this team is good at scouting talent, whether it's late in the draft or, to your point, free agency. I think everyone who saw that contract, and certainly after the first 4 weeks or so of Stephon Gilmore's reign in New England, thought, "Wow, what an awful deal! How could you ever do that?" And then all of a sudden, you're winning a Super Bowl because Stephon Gilmore's on your team and
Mhm.
he wins defensive player of the year and he was worth every bit of that contract that he was worth. So
Yep.
um
I thought he could have been Super Bowl MVP also in the win over the Rams,
he could have, yeah. I mean,
or Dante Hightower. I mean, it's generally weird when a team scores 13 points and you give it to the wide receiver, but
yeah,
so
but
be it.
Julian Edelman also had what 13 catches and 100.
Oh,
I
he had
mean,
a phenomenal game.
yeah, I mean
He,
he outperformed pretty much I mean everyone on that team. I mean, it's tough. I know people are like, "Oh, could have give, to your point, giving it to guys like that." But people remember those plays, but they're not as they're at the end of the day, it's kind of this whole foundational argument about value. It's like as great as a linebacker can be, he's not as valuable as a top 10 quarterback. You know what I mean? Like
of course
and
not. Oh, no,
yeah,
no.
so or
Right.
or even a top 15 for that matter. I mean, again, it's not a knock on the individual player. It's just look, I mean, it's the game of football. The quarterback's the
Mhm.
most important. Um so yeah, when it comes to like Stephon Gilmore was great in that game, and obviously I think he was the face of that defensive um just a really just obviously phenomenal game that game. I mean, people don't want to remember the 2 games prior to that where they gave up like 70 some odd points between the 2 games. But in that game in particular, the defense was great. And obviously, Gilmore was the face of that defense for that entire season for the most part. But at the end of the day, the plays made by Edelman and obviously Brady's not the most. It wasn't his most statistically impressive game, but it was just it's weird because people think like, oh, it's 13-3, the game must suck. No, it was a very good defensive game. It was a
Mhm.
very good back and forth. Sometimes those are just how the games are played. You have to understand the flow. You have to understand the rhythm, how the game is being, just playing out. You know what I mean? This kind of goes into our discussions about overtime issues and making decisions on fourth down. No, you can't make a decision based on the past. Um, when you're trying to deal with the current. You got to figure out what the situation is in the game. And sometimes you don't know that until you kick the ball off. And like as fans, John, you'll know. Like we'll sit there and if you're you're heavily invested in a Packers game, after that first drive or so, sometimes you already know. You're like, oh crap, this is not going to be. You just know. There's a feeling. There's a certain
Oh, I knew
vibe
that in
that
the playoff game.
yeah,
I knew
and
that in the playoff game
you're
against
just
San
like
Francisco. Great first drive, and once Mercedes Lewis, fumbled the ball, I'm like, first of all, Rodgers will, like lose it for about an hour and a half, and that's far too long to lose it. And you start not
mhm,
trusting your players, and that's what happened. Yeah, absolutely. You can tell the flow. I mean, who can ever forget the Kansas City Rams game on the Monday night? Was it 54-51?
yeah.
I mean, that was, or we see this in basketball. You'll see, okay, 125, 120, guys are on fire, defense can't do much, and then you'll see another game, Jesus, 89-86 final. What the hell happened?
Yeah, or it's like you feel more comfortable with an 8 point lead in one game, but feel like
Yep,
you're ripping your hair out having a
yep,
14 point lead in another, and you're just like, wait a minute,
exactly,
how does this
exactly.
work? So yeah, there's certain feels to specific games that you just don't know until you're in it, and there's no
Hmm.
predictive way to no way to predict it. So going into that Super Bowl. everyone's like, "Wow, well, the Rams are a high-scoring team. The Patriots, obviously, for years have always been a great offense." But naturally, of course, you get a 13-3 game, and obviously it was a great defensive game. But some of the biggest plays were made on offense. As crazy as that
Hmm.
sounds, like the
Yep,
throw to Gronk, some of
absolutely.
the big plays by Edelman. So um, it's a weird, great game of football. I don't know how we started talking about Super Bowl 53, but here we are. Especially when the conversation began with Aaron Rodgers and enemas and eating shrooms and Joshua Tree and all that stuff. But no, look, I don't know my gut, and we'll kind of wrap today's show up with this. And it's a shorter show today because it's the off season for us too, and we're working around busy schedules, but we do want to provide
Yes.
some entertainment for you all. Uh, but my instinct is I I don't I think he's gone. Not retired. I think he's moving on from Green Bay. I know a lot of people are trying to read into all the comments and I mean you got cyber detectives coming out of every corner annex trying to analyze words and meaning. Like I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that deep. like let's I think John I think this
Hmm.
is all surface, okay? This the Zen, very deep thinker. Because quite frankly, if you're a deep thinker, your thoughts have to make somewhat of logical sense. His don't.
Hmm.
They kind of contradict one another. They kind of come from every corner of the field, and it's basically just how he feels in that moment. So to me,
Hmm.
I don't think he's necessarily this heavy deep thinker. I think he likes to think he is, which is fine. I mean that's good for him. He seems happy and everything like that. But I I I don't know. I part of me's telling me this is all just a show. This is all just a ploy. Even me, even someone who wants to easily believe that he's just an egomaniac that just wants the attention. Even I can't believe that all this crypticness, there's all these comments, all these little things are just for attention. But they could be, John. They could be.
They could be. I mean, again, I've said he's got middle child syndrome,
Oh
right?
yeah.
He's the middle of three sons, has no relationship with his family. I think you maybe have hit it, Ian. He could be one of these people who's a mile wide and an inch deep.
Yeah.
We know all these people. They have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things, and they're articulate enough to make it sound like they're experts on everything. He's starting to delve into a little bit of Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
I don't think he's quite as out there as Kyrie Irving. He seems to at least pull himself back in and deal in reality at some point. But I think it's performance art at this point. I
Yeah.
think
Oh
the
yeah.
guy is just trying to pull one over on everyone and loves the attention. Absolutely, no question about that. In some ways, he's morphed into Brett Favre. I mean, Brett Favre did this too at the end of his stay in Green Bay. The difference is Brett Favre's offseason would be, Bud Lights on the tractor in
Yeah.
Mississippi and never, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, if he plays next year, will show up in great shape and will throw the ball beautifully and still be, one of the best quarterbacks in football. I think he's too good to not be that. Is he good enough to win a Super Bowl? Well, the answer the last 11 years has been no. But I think that I think a lot of this is performance art. Is the guy bored? His relationship with Shailene Woodley appears to be over, although half of the IG post was about her. Again, he may have been, heavily medicated or whatever when he wrote this post, and it was just like a stream of consciousness that makes no sense. But again, he does like the attention. He knows that all the shows are talking about him. And look, his last game was a dud. Lost 13-10 in the divisional round when he put up exactly 3 points in the final 8 or 9 drives. So anything to get away from that is probably a good thing for him. And now we're talking about him, enemas and 12-day cleansing and Punta Karma and all this other stuff that no one really knows much about. And that kind of chases us off into another endeavor of what the hell is he talking about? And we're spending more of our time on that than relitigating what happened in the postseason.
Well, and that's exactly it. That's why I'm saying this time of the year, post Super Bowl, prior to the intensities of the season, this is the perfect time for Aaron Rodgers because his stock is never higher.
Mm-hmm.
He's never more infallible than now because right now, Aaron Rodgers fans are around the world are coming out of the post playoff knockout crevice that they've been living under, and all of a sudden that false confidence, that false bravado has come
Mm-hmm.
back. It's man, if only Aaron Rodgers had more help. Well, well, again, we have this conversation every single year. I find it fascinating that he has enough help to get him to the NFC Championship game, but then all of a sudden it's just not enough. And after a while, you sit there and laugh, and you're like, okay, now you just got to sometimes, and obviously not him, but I'm talking about the fans, kind of look in the mirror, take a look, and see
Mhm.
like, okay, there's a common denominator here. It's that this team, like if they were under 500 every single year, and this, that, and the other, that's one thing. But when you're the number one seed in the NFC year after year and one of the top two seeds, and at the end of the year you fail and you say, oh, he needs more help. Well, then that tells me he's not that great of a quarterback. He's just a pretty
Mhm.
good one that needs to be propped up. So in a way, they're kind of arguing the opposite of what they're intending. But the point is, eh, they've had opportunities. He's had opportunities. If he wants to take another shot at it, he can. If it's in Green Bay, I think that's clearly the best situation for him. I don't think he's going to go anywhere else, and it's going to be better for him. Certainly not the AFC West, which is a far tougher division. Um, Going up against some of those other teams in that division. So yeah, I mean, right now, like I said, this is the top of the Aaron Rodgers cycle. Everyone's happy. He's happy. Wearing office T-shirts, all that stuff. Gonna go out and do some goofy stuff. Who knows? It's all fun and games with Aaron Rodgers now because there's no pressure of anything anytime soon. So, but for us, it's all fun and games until we have to say goodbye. And right now, we're gonna say goodbye. So, thank you everyone for tuning in for this very brief, quick show. We'll be back Friday again for another live episode to talk everything that's happened between now and then, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have a little bit more insight into what's happening down in Miami with Brian Flores and the owner, which is ongoing
Mm.
right now. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will talk to you on Friday. Have a good one.